The morning air carried the perfect balance of warmth and freshness, a rare treat in the middle of summer. At 75 degrees, the day still felt calm, with the promise of a sweltering 97 later. But beyond the temperature, there was an urgency in the air. 8 North Pole Arborvitaes had been waiting far too long, tucked away by the high tunnels, their roots still confined in containers. Today was the day they'd finally meet the earth. The auger was already in motion, its low hum echoing from the tractor as Aaron prepared the ground. These evergreens would soon stand as tall, elegant sentinels along the west fence line, their narrow forms perfect for tucking into spaces without overwhelming them. But before that moment, there was time to wander through the garden, to see what was thriving, blooming, and quietly telling its own story. The first stop was a row of violets, a blue, delphiniums, a brand new variety set to be released next year. Just months ago, they were small and unassuming, their foliage barely spreading, their blooms tentative. Now, after their first cutback, they stood proudly, thick stems holding clouds of soft violet blooms. Unlike older varieties that demand staking to prevent collapse, these were built for resilience, holding strong even after the week's violent windstorms. At 2.5 to 3 feet tall, their compact size and sturdy form made them a gardener's dream, low maintenance, beautiful, and beloved by bees and butterflies alike. Down the path, the warm blush of Flavorette Honey Apricot roses came into view. Their blooms, clustered in generous bouquets on each stem, glowed in the morning light against the cool blue backdrop of spruce. These shrubs didn't throw unruly branches or demand constant shaping. Instead, they grew compact and tidy, a perfect balance of elegance and ease. Around the corner, a burst of color stopped everything in its tracks, the lilac crush hibiscus. Towering nearly 5 feet, each plant had grown entirely from the ground up in just one season. Their flowers were massive, some stretching 8 inches across, and they showed no signs of slowing down. Even after heavy rains, their thick petals stood strong, unmarred by the weight of water. This section of the garden, lined with Russian sage, salvia, sedum, hydrangeas, and superbena, radiated the kind of harmony that comes from intentional planting. But beauty wasn't the only thing waiting in the morning's plan, breakfast was calling. The orchard promised plums, and they didn't disappoint. Under the trees, the ground was littered with wind-fallen Santa Rosas, perfectly ripe and sun-warmed. The skin gave way to sweet, juicy flesh, a reminder of why fresh-picked fruit will always outshine store-bought. These, along with nectarines and strawberries, would fill baskets for the day's meals, and for jam making later on. By the time the fruit was gathered, the tractor was ready. The Arborvitaes awaited their permanent home. 8 tall, slender trees with deep green foliage, each destined to grow 10 to 15 feet high yet remain only 3 to 5 feet wide. They were perfect for lining a fence, for framing a view without blocking it entirely. But their journey into the soil was about to meet an unexpected twist. The auger dug hole after hole until, with a sudden jolt, the work stopped. A water line had been struck. Water surged into the hole, turning the dry earth into a frothy mess. It was the kind of setback that every gardener eventually encounters, an unavoidable hazard when working with machinery and buried utilities. The water was shut off, and Paul arrived with a transfer pump, its battery-powered motor humming as it siphoned the water away. The damage could be fixed, and thankfully, the break had happened in one of the less critical zones. But for now, the final Arborvitae would have to wait for a new location. While the auger was still in place, another idea took shape, a pair of shallow wells dug into the hillside, perfect for creating a mud play area for the kids. It was messy, yes, but also timeless. Childhood memories are built on moments like these: hands in mud, laughter spilling into the air, the simple joy of creating something from nothing. The planting resumed. 7 Arborvitaes were set in a staggered formation along the fence line, creating depth and interest instead of a rigid, straight hedge. From a distance, the arrangement looked seamless, as though the trees had always belonged there. The 8th found its home in a separate spot, nestled between a blue spruce and a honey locust, where it would grow as a standalone accent. Standing back to take it all in, the transformation was clear. The fence line was no longer just a boundary, it was framed in green, with vertical shapes adding rhythm and structure to the landscape. These trees would only grow more beautiful over time, requiring little more than water in their first season and patience in the years to come. The day had held everything: the quiet joy of admiring thriving plants, the sweetness of orchard fruit, the satisfaction of planting, and even the frustration of an unexpected repair. Yet it all ended with the sense that something lasting had been created, trees that would stand for decades, marking the day when they were first given roots in this soil. As the sun dipped lower, the garden felt full of life. Flowers in bloom, fruit in baskets, fresh earth around the newly planted Arborvitaes, and, somewhere in the back, the sound of children's laughter in the mud.